All right. So we are here today with Stephanie Mitchell, and I'm super pumped to just hear more about what she has to say about the yoga, bringing the yoga world and the fitness world together today in one big business smash. So welcome to the show, Stephanie. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's exciting.
Yes. So I read something. The first thing that really stood out to me was I always love hearing there's always a story. There's always a story. And I love hearing people's kind of like origin stories. So you said that you took your first yoga class in 2007. Now that's 14 years ago, and the rest is history. I'd love to hear what what was it that shifted, or what was it that you felt that was like, this is this, or did you even feel at the time that this is something that's going to be a part of my life?
Right. Yeah. So it was a college credit that I had. That's why I took the yoga class. I was a Pilates. I loved Pilates. I practiced Pilates a lot, and that's a lot of core mat-based, type of workout. So I figured I needed to try something else. And I'm like, well, I'll give yoga a shot. Not really. I've heard of it. Sounds great. And literally, my class was taught by this amazing little Russian woman. She was absolutely adorable and so just genuine and heartfelt. Like I could just feel her energy and the energy of the room, even like all of us college students. And for me, it was really after the first class, like I just really noticed how it encompassed the mind and the body and the breath. Like I really picked that up very early on because I had to think about, okay, what is my body doing while I'm standing here in this like tree pose? Like, what is my mind telling me? Oh, this is hard, or I fall out of it and I'm like, oh, I'm hard on myself, So it really allowed me to kind of hold up a mirror in front of myself and kind of reevaluate my own self-talk. And of course, being in college and also working part-time, there was a lot of pressure and wanted good grades, all of those things. And so it turned into a regular thing. I went twice a week to this one teacher. And then I ended up just kind of creating my own personal practice at home. Even with my roommate at the time, she and I would get together and we would flow. And it was something I never, ever let go of. I did not forecast it to be a career. That happened a little bit later after my stint in corporate. But it's during my time in corporate America, it was part of my practice. It was part of my life. I practiced every morning before I went to work. And I noticed, being mindful and aware as the practice will make you over time, that, stressful situations that some of my coworkers would get into, I was able to pull in some sort of sense of calm. And it was really because of that, like, positive self-talk, like, breathe, it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You can do difficult things. Because, when you're holding a warrior 3, that's what you're telling yourself. Like, I can do difficult things. Or even a low lunge for that matter. I mean, it's definitely a challenging practice, but in such an amazing way. So, yeah, it really has just always been part of my life ever since that first class.
Man, there's so much. I don't know if you noticed me taking many notes there. There's so much that I want to dive into, but I think the biggest thing is, like, I love that right away you recognized, and I think it took me time, but I recognized this in my fitness journey with like strength and conditioning and weight training. When I really got into it, was like, it really is a mirror to teach you lessons about yourself. And you had mentioned, like, you're trying to hold this tree pose and you're wobbling out of it and you're judging yourself, did you, especially as a university student, where else was that showing up for you? And how did that, in that, I know obviously in the stress of the corporate world, it helped you, but even just in that moment, I think it's incredible that you could kind of like forecast it out into the rest of your life. Where else was that? Where else were you finding that same situation?
Yeah, I think it was, through some of the challenges I faced in college with academics. I early on in my schooling, I had a reading disability, so it took me like a lot of time to overcome that. And I always kind of felt like there was kind of a time where with relationships that I had when I was in college and I was that young and I was like exploring, I always kind of had this feeling that I wasn't doing enough. Like I
Mm.
quite, I wasn't going and studying abroad every semester. Like I really wanted to, but like something was kind of holding me back, and um yeah, I think it was just kind of like that feeling of I feel like I'm working really hard, but like what is all of this going to amount to? Am I doing enough? Am I doing enough in my relationships? Am I doing enough at school? Like, I made a B on a test. Maybe I didn't study enough, or I got called to the, teacher's office because he wanted to go over my paper that I wrote and gave me a bunch of red marks, so like, oh, like why am I failing?
Yeah.
So it really did help me over time. And then being a business owner now, who do those thoughts come up in our head? So it really helped me over time to kind of quiet that self-doubt and quiet that negative self-talk that I was having. And it took time for that to really kick in. And so then when I got to entrepreneurship, yeah, I sure as hell have had my fair share of struggle, but I think the strengthening of that mindset, working it out, not just the body, but also working out the mind, has really helped me stay focused and tread through some of the roughest waters I've ever been through before.
Yeah. And like, I think we've both probably learned in the entrepreneurship journey that like the rough waters are never behind you.
No.
Like, that you may pass some, but I've been leaning a lot lately on new levels, new devils, right? It's just going to be the next set of rough waters. And, it's just like, it's just going to be the next pose, right? Like, okay, we got through tree pose. Now, now we got to do the next one,
On to the next.
on to
Mhm.
the next. And I find that so many, you work with entrepreneurial yogis. I work with entrepreneurial strength coaches and athletic therapists. And so many of us, myself and clearly yourself included, have just like limiting beliefs beyond limiting beliefs. Right. And I think that's all of us. But the best part about entrepreneurship is that it exposes those so that we can work on them.
Mhm.
What would you say, maybe this is your experience or the experience of working with other yoga teachers, are some of the common limiting beliefs or the common like beliefs that are holding people back, that are keeping people stuck where they are?
Yeah, this is something I'm really diving into because we hear it a lot on, conversations that we have with yoga teachers. I think really just the main one, and this is it's pretty broad because it's kind of multi-level, but it's really just the struggle of owning your own worth.
Oh yeah.
Like
Wow.
we're told in YTT, or at least I was in my YTT. And don't get me wrong, my teacher training was incredible. I would not take it back for anything. But, we're told that you're going to be a yoga teacher, you're going to be teaching potentially, 10 plus classes a day. You're going to be running around from studio to studio, and you're not going to make a lot of money doing this. This isn't why we teach yoga. We don't teach yoga because we want to make a bunch of money, right? So like you're already kind of like the yoga studio model just like kind of throws it all out of whack, in my opinion. Because they're, teachers are underpaid, and then their studio owners struggle. They struggle to keep staff. So, you're already kind of given that like mentality. You're not taught anything about the business of yoga in your yoga teacher training. And if anyone out there has been through a training that has had this, I'd love to connect with you because I'd love to learn about it.
No
But
kidding.
about the struggle with like, okay, either opening a studio or just being a yogi-preneur, because it's a business, right? So a lot of teachers just they struggle in their own worth, and they don't see themselves as anything. All they see themselves as like as usually is just kind of like a base level yoga teacher. And they have that mentality of like, well, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money doing this, so I'm just going to keep like, serving or bartending or working this other corporate job that I hate because this is just kind of like something that I do for a hobby. And
Yeah.
then when you're able to like open the door and open their eyes to the potential that they could have, you're just, I'm always kind of, sometimes shocked, just like, I, how they've been like some teachers have been sitting in this seat for 10 plus 20 plus years, feeling this way of like not like lacking owning their worth, and not realizing that, we are healers and we offer transformative experiences for people, and not really taking that to heart. And then, they're just like, whoa, I didn't realize I could do that. I am capable of all of these other things on top of teaching yoga. So yeah, it always just kind of shocks me that, it's taken a while for some of them to really, blossom into that headspace of, I am worth more than just the $25 yoga class.
Yeah. Oh man, there's so many parallels there. And this cycles back to, so, okay, so they think, okay, well, I'm not going to make much money, so I'll continue doing my quote unquote real job. And
Right.
this is going to be my side hustle. And then the stereotype comes through that yoga teaching is just a side hustle. So then there's so many times where like so many yoga teachers are like, well, screw it. It's just a side hustle. It's not, this isn't my career.
Mhm.
Right. And I just, the moment when I always say to like strength coaches and that is like, what if you could make like really good money, have a huge impact doing what you actually love and doing what can change lives? Like, what if that was the case? Why
Right.
can't you? Why can't you do that? The only thing that's stopping you from doing that is a belief that was put into your head by somebody else because
Mhm.
they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And also the fear,
Oh man, the fear.
having fear. Like, we get so, I hear so many excuses of like, oh, I have too much on my plate, I don't have the time, or I need to invest more in my teacher training so that I can, teach more. And, we can get to that. But, you know, excuses are just fear. Like, you're fearful of taking the leap and moving forward. But that's what's so amazing about people like yourself and I, like, we're there to help support you so that you're not alone, because think about your yoga teacher training or your training certificate or whatever kind of fitness related, certification that you've received. You were supported on that journey. You were with other people, own coach, that was teaching you the ropes. Um, and I just know from my own experience, it's like you leave your YTT and you're just kind of like, boop, like booted out, like no more support. All right, now go figure it out. Then you exhaust yourself. You don't know, like nobody's there for any sort of roadmap. You're just like driving the car down the same dark road over and over and over again.
And I mean, that's what happened. And what we know, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I grew up as just with parents who were like, money doesn't grow on trees. You're going to have to
Mhm.
work hard for money. You're probably going to have to do things you don't really want to do. And then, when you're 55, you can get out of that and into nothingness. Like, that's essentially, I love my parents, but that's the generation. That was their
Yep.
generation. And so you get out of yoga teacher training, or you get out of college, or you get out of your certification and you go, well, I don't have any other tools here, so
Right.
I'm just going to do what my deep seated beliefs and what's been ingrained in me, which is just, I'm
Right.
going to work my ass off
Hmm.
and not really work that smart and just like hope that this is good.
Yeah,
Hope
it's
it
kind of
works
an
out.
interesting, yeah, that's kind of an interesting parallel with the, generational, like what our parents, because my parents were, the same way,
Yeah.
very much like do what you want, do what makes you happy. But, it was like, you get a job, you marry the job, that job supports you, and then one day you retire, so it is kind of, it's like, all right, here you go, like you're done, like you said, go work, 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 and hope that it makes you happy kind of situation. And aside from knowing that I needed to call State Farm and get business insurance, I had no idea, or some sort of yoga teacher insurance. I had no idea anything else of
Yeah.
you. Like, I figured it all out on my own.
And they like, yeah, you knew some poses and stuff. and some music that you could add to the thing. Like that's, I remember just getting out of college and going to my first job, and one of my mentors saying to me, okay, you're gonna do the boot camp class today. You're gonna plan it all. And I'm like, what?
Right.
I don't know what to do.
Right.
I just kind of got to figure it out. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to just dive more into this, because I know you said you're passionate about this beforehand, and you took us there. So you had this post about how, you don't need more yoga teacher training hours, and to prove that you have something to offer, focus on the value you're already capable of providing. And I talk about this all the time about certifications in the fitness industry. And I actually have this belief that more certifications, you need a certain level, and you need a certain level for safety, for sure. Safety is a priority for all clients whenever you're doing a service-based business, especially when it's physical in nature.
Sure. Yeah.
But beyond that, certifications can absolutely be helpful. But don't think for a second that they're going to help you grow your business, because they're actually going to probably pull you further away from your ideal client, because they're not going to understand what you're doing. Would you agree with that? Or what are your thoughts on, more yoga teacher training?
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And the thing is like when I get that objection from yogis who are like, well, I want to, I've only been just graduated from my YTT, and I really want to, like, further my yoga teacher training and go back for my 300 hour, or I really want to get, like, 1,000 hours of teaching under my belt before I try to start to do anything. And I'm just, so my biggest thing for that is, like, you did your 200 hour and you learned how to teach. You learned how to make a sequence. You learned different poses. You learned sun salutations. You talked about music. You talked about playlists. You went through the sutras, all of those things, which are beautiful things. Trust yourself with that. The teaching is going to come naturally, whether you're teaching in front of a corporate office, or you're teaching your friends, or you're teaching your family. So, you don't need more yoga teacher training. What you need is business strategy, so that you can actually build a sustainable and profitable yoga business, and you can thrive off of it. And it's something that you can do for your whole life and pass it down to someone else, or sell it, franchise it. Instead of running yourself into the ground, teaching a ton of classes for very, very, like, hardly any pay, for pennies, essentially, and not really fully being respected by those that are asking you to teach.
And here's the best part about when you have that sustainable, profitable business, it opens up the freedom for you to learn and get creative.
Right.
And it gives you the platform to teach, which is the best way to learn and grow, right? Like, I know you got to get in front of people and you got to do the thing. But if you're stuck in, like, safety mode, just try not to burn out mode, just I need more money mode, that's not going to help you be creative and become a better teacher.
Right.
Right. Like,
exactly.
That's going to help you become a better shitty teacher.
Right. I mean, you're going to be teaching anyways.
Yeah.
So why not, like, really make it count? So why not really allow it to help you make a well-deserved income for your services, and also create a massive impact for what you do?
And what a noble way to think about it, right? Like, let's actually create an impact. The next part of that post that I was talking about is when you said you are not greedy as a yoga teacher to make enough money to sustain yourself doing what you love. I feel like that's another, I mean, that plays off the belief of self-worth, right? That you were talking about earlier, is we feel that wanting more money, even if it's just enough to, like, pay the rent and have a little bit of extra, is greedy. Can you talk a little bit more about the money mindset that you see?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is something that I kind of like to just bring to light. And this is from some current research. I mean, the yoga industry is an $80 billion industry.
Wow.
So don't tell me that you can't make money from it, or that you don't deserve to make money from it. I think that healers, anyone who is helping other people transform their lives, better their lives, deserve to get paid. And that's exactly who we are. That's exactly what we do. And it's really that shift of mindset. It's that removing the don'ts and the can'ts. I don't have enough experience. I can't teach corporate, or I can't teach a large crowd yet because I don't have enough yoga teacher training hours. It's all BS. It's all just a smoke screen. It's all fear that you have. It's that little toddler inside of you that is telling you that you can't do certain things. And, I think just knowing that, people are out there thriving in this industry, yoga alone, the wellness industry, yes, but yoga alone, they are out there thriving. And in my particular niche that I work with, which is corporate, we are, if 2020 did anything for us, it built a really solid reputation for us. Because companies realize how much health, especially mental health and wellness, play such a pivotal role in the success of their employees and their overall, bottom line.
Man.
So yeah, I don't think that any yoga teacher should hold back, or it's not greedy. Like it's not greedy to own your worth and make what you deserve.
You could actually say the opposite. You could actually say that and greedy is not the word, but that it's selfish to withhold yourself from making more money and impacting more people
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you have this gift, and because you've done the work, and because you are the person that can help. We talked about this beforehand, hundreds, if not thousands of people with one corporate contract. If you aren't willing to put yourself out there and do that work, and you are letting excuses and fear get in your way, you're actually being selfish. You're actually being selfish, and you're not allowing people to get, what they need from you. Which when you're a service provider, I think the majority of service providers at some point or another realize I was put on this earth to be in service of other people. I think most of us, if not all of us, were. We just need to figure it out. I want to dig into corporate yoga a little bit. You are an advocate of using corporate yoga, or really branching out into corporate yoga for yogapreneurs to build a more balanced business. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so in that, can you talk a little bit more about what you mean specifically by corporate yoga, and then exactly how this will allow them to have a more balanced business and life?
Yeah, well, I really try to, what I like to say about it is that, what we offer, at least with my company, is multi-level wellness programs. So when I say corporate yoga, I don't refer to myself as a corporate yoga teacher. I'm a corporate wellness provider. It means business, right? So it's a different audience than, what you would expect from a studio. It's a different audience from, it really has its own kind of, language that you have to speak. And it's interesting too, because not every company is the same. So there are some companies out there that really resonate with words like meditation and vinyasa flow. But there are other companies out there that have no idea what you're talking about when you are like saying those things. So it's really, really good to read your prospect, and that's why we don't just, I'm not trying to teach yoga teachers to make one cookie cutter, program that's going to work for every single company. The beauty about it is that you meet the company where they are, what they're trying to improve in their corporate culture, what they're trying to help their employees improve, goals that they have. And it may not even be a yoga class. It could be, a workshop. It could be, bringing in people that like nutritionists that, to come in and do like a lunch and learn that you hire and you bring in and you add the elements of breath work. So really thinking outside the box. And that kind of takes me back to like the yogi's struggle of just seeing themselves as oh, I'm just a yoga teacher. I'm just going to make, 15 to 25 bucks a class. That's it. That's all. I'm going to keep working my job I hate. You really need to start to pull out, and a good way to get out of that mindset is to start pulling out like a success journal, if you will. Like think back to like your earliest success and go from there. It can be something from childhood, through adolescence, through adulthood, through like if you're married, if you're a parent, what have you, and really start thinking about all of the successes that you've had. Like, for instance, myself, I was always kind of like the natural leader in college group projects. And I got stuff done, and we had a great presentation, we had a great project, and I've taken that into my business. That's a high note for me, like leadership and helping people really develop their own leadership. So really dig deep into, all of the things that you're capable of, and it'll help you really start to diversify your offers, which is what corporate wants. Like they are enticed by that. They're like, oh, they get on the call with you and they're like, well, I thought this was just going to be about a yoga class, but you're telling me we can do team building workshops,
Right.
So it really helps you stand apart. And then it also helps you diversify your offers, where if they're not ready for a monthly program, maybe you do like an employee appreciation event and you bring some of your people and you teach a variety of different classes. I mean, there's so much creativity to be had. And like we said, one corporate contract, you could have the potential of impacting thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the impact and the income alone, and really building out those solid offers. And it helps you really step into that light as business owner, keeping it yogic business. So I like to think of it as like balancing the softness of a dove and the will to strike like a hawk. It's like you're still yogic, you're still authentic, but you are, really coming to the table confidently and really making an impact to a industry that needs it.
Such a yogic way to put it.
Mm.
The softness of a dove and the willingness to strike like a hawk. I love that. And it sounds like a lot of what you're saying is really, you talk about reading your prospect. It's a marketing conversation, and it's about shifting from yoga teacher or, one specific thing that puts you in a box to solution provider. I come up with solutions. That's what, as entrepreneurs, we come up with solutions to people's problems. We are problem solvers.
Yeah, we
right?
are.
Most corporate companies have problems of, let's say lack of, they're not getting the work done as fast as they can, or they're people taking sick days, or as we've seen now through COVID, mental health issues. That they want, like a happy worker is a good worker, right? They're going to show up, they're going to do their work, right? How can you, okay, we have a gap, right? The company wants something and they don't have it right now. How can you be the person who fills that gap? Right. Or be the company or be the provider that fills that gap, right? I was even thinking as you were talking, something as simple as like teaching employees just to learn how to breathe. Like you were talking about when things get stressful when you're in corporate America, right?
Absolutely.
Like, stop, breathe, calm down, you'll be okay.
And you need people need accountability to do that. It's just like why you hire a personal trainer. You hire a trainer to keep you accountable, to do the workouts. You do the workouts with them. They push you to do it. It's just like a breath practice. It's just like, scheduling 5 minutes on your calendar every day to take us, turn away from the computer, stand up, do some breath work. I mean, you'd be surprised, like you can tell people until you're blue in the face, but do they actually do it? Probably not. But if they have that accountability and they have that support and they have that liveliness and really understand what it's doing for their body, because that's another thing too, is we are educators to them. Like a lot of yoga teachers are very intimidated by speaking to corporate, because they're just going to look at me like a yoga teacher. There's no way that I could price my class for, $350. Like there's just no way I could do that. And the thing is they want to talk to us because they don't know necessarily anything about corporate wellness or what it should look like or how much it should cost or what they should offer. So you have to take it from, a place of curiosity and openness, because you want to listen to them and you want to be able to speak to their pain points, but at the same time, go into it confidently, knowing your shit, because they're not going to know. They don't know what a corporate wellness program should look like. That's why they're even, open to having the conversation with you, because they're curious, like, what would this look like for us? So
Yes.
own your worth, know your stuff, and just go into it knowing that you're the educator.
Someone told me early on, because I'd done a couple of those types of things, or I'd go in and speak to sports teams or whatever, and it's nerve wracking. Like, oh, they're just going to look at me like, here's another hour-long presentation about something else. Right. And it's like, sometimes you just got to drop a little knowledge on them. You kind of like, yes, you want to meet them where they're at, but sometimes you got to like just drop a little bomb on them and then have them be like, oh shit, she knows what she's talking about. Okay. Right. And then you take yourself right out of just another yoga teacher or just another nutrition presentation. And it's into, oh shit, this person can solve my problem for me, as the person sitting in the back row who was going to just be scrolling on their phone the whole time. And then it's like, what did she just say?
Right.
Now you can actually help somebody because you're in their brain.
Right. You're stepping up into your role as a business owner at that point. And
hell yes.
And that's where like market research is so important, so that statistics when you're on the call with some of these, because it really helps you answer objections. It's a little tip for anyone out there is like, do your market research, know what's going on with A, the company you're about to get on the call with, and B, like what's going on in the industry that you're trying to serve.
Yes.
So you can hit them with those stats. You can hit them with those numbers,
and be like, and here's how I'm going to solve that problem for you.
Right.
Help you solve that problem. And then there we have it. Now, you're going to help us solve that exact problem. Okay. Now we can talk, right? Now You've gotten over the hump of just being another weird yogi.
Right.
I'd love to hear from you. We were talking the corporate world, and you were saying actually that where you're at down in Georgia, like people are considering there's some possibilities of going back to the office and getting back to a more quote unquote normal pre-2020 life. How has COVID and the pandemic in general, like how has this affected, your take? What's your take on kind of like the future of corporate wellness?
So I see it being kind of a hybrid situation. And this is, this was a concern from some yoga teachers in my mentorship program. Oh, like we've, spent so much time building this online platform, because the online platform's always been part of my program. It just got pushed to the top when COVID hit. I'm like, all right, do an online program where you can live stream classes, where you can have pre-recorded stuff, all that. So, they have this really well-rounded and awesome, concept, how they, they've built it out in different ways. I want them to use what works best for them, whether it's their website or what have you. But I teach them how to do it. So anyway, they've been asking me like, things are opening back up, and we've built, we've been working, trying to pitch virtual. So, my biggest thing with that is, from what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing, is it's going to be more so of a hybrid kind of functionality, where it's really, really good that you built that virtual platform, because now you can diversify your offers. Now, when a company comes to you and says that they want, or you're on a conversation with them and they want in office and online, boom, you can do it. They want in office. If you feel comfortable, you can do it. They want totally virtual. You can do that too. So you've got 3 different options. But from what I'm gathering is a lot of companies are not, at least right now, and I don't know if this will change or not quite yet, but they can't, and they're not being overly demanding on their employees coming back into the office. It's kind of one of those like, well, if you want to come in a couple days a week, that's fine. Or they might be mandating like 1 or 2 days and the rest of the time working from home. And the reason why they can't just like change it right back is because we've been working virtually for over a year now. You have people in all of these different routines, and it's different in different parts of the world. like we've talked about, like it's totally different where you are compared to where I am. So I really see it being virtual is not going anywhere. If anything, virtual was always something that companies wanted to put in place. And I think it unfortunately took a pandemic for the pendulum to swing in that direction and it completely be virtual. But I think that, a lot of companies are going to remain virtual. And then I think a lot of companies are going to have some employees working from home, some employees coming back in the office. So as a wellness provider, okay, can you come in the office and also live stream? Well, hell yeah, I can, because now I have this awesome virtual platform. We can do it however you want. Mm-hmm. Got sick, that's cool. We can still do something virtual for those that aren't sick, So I really think I'm actually really excited about it. I think that it is really going to set us up with diverse offers that are going to be, we're going to be able to appeal to all the different needs of the different companies that we work with. And not to mention, being virtual, you don't have to just stay in your city. You can reach out to companies in different areas.
And I think that's the coolest part, where like if they vibe with what you're saying and with your energy, I mean, it doesn't matter where they are. That's the beauty of 2021 and beyond. And I love how you use the word pendulum. That's a word that I've been using around like creating a hybrid program in the personal training world, which is like, if you want to work mainly in person, or the way of the world allows it, great, you absolutely can, and you've got the technology on your side to kind of help with accountability and help with the other parts of lifestyle and wellness coaching. If a worldwide pandemic hits, or let's say you have kids, or you want to get married, or you want to go on vacation, you can swing the pendulum to fully online and still provide a great product without really having to hire out or do a whole lot otherwise. And if you want to do in between, which is kind of where we are right now, where maybe some people are in person, or we can do that, and other people aren't as comfortable, you can do that too. The best part is you can provide a product or a service that works with any type of in-person, online, any combination of those things. Again, being a problem solver in order to solve corporate problems, solve people's problems, whatever it is. Yes, we have an answer for that.
Yeah, like there's no coming from you. Oh, virtual, yeah, I can do that. What about hybrid? Yeah, I can do that. What about in office? Yeah, sure, I can do that. Again, if you're comfortable, because there's still a lot of, and I think like probably more so next year we'll start seeing more like in-person, wellness programs going on. But yeah, like you say, like no matter where that pendulum is swinging, you're on the scope.
Yeah. And you can just kind of like insert yourself there. Like, yep, we'll do that. I want to take this a bit of a different direction, in the fact that your Instagram handle and your email address is about the rolling mat and the Rollin Yogi. So you have a mobile studio essentially.
Yep.
Or a way to provide services anywhere. Festivals you were talking about, offices, whatever it is. How did this idea come, or how did you get to this place?
Yeah, so it was when I started my YTT back in 2015, I went into it very business mindset. I knew what I wanted to do with my training. Well, I didn't know I was going to do corporate, to be honest, but I knew that I didn't want a brick and mortar studio. I didn't want to be held down by that. And I love to travel. I'm a wanderluster, and before the pandemic, I was traveling like every 6 to 8 weeks, so like now I'm slowly getting back into that swing of things, which is a blessing. But I just wanted to be free. And I wanted to, not only that, from my own personal stance, I wanted to make the yoga practice more accessible for people, because I would always hear that like, oh, I don't want to go to a yoga studio because I don't know enough yoga, and I just feel like I'm going to look stupid, and those places are sacred, and like, I don't want to do that, or I'm not flexible enough, or I don't have time. I don't have time to get off work and go to a yoga studio because I got kids at home or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to be able to make it more accessible for communities. Um, and, a big passion of mine with the travel was to go to different places and explore other yoga communities and just kind of get a feel for what the studios were like, get a feel for what the yogis there were like and what the community was like. And that was really inspiring because it is very different, in each state that I've been to, that I've been able to have the pleasure of, practicing in their studio or even leading an event at breweries, up the East Coast, which I've done. So yeah, it was just kind of, it was an idea that my sister and I actually came up with. And it was really in an effort to encompass all of my passion, which was fitness and yoga, community, travel, and music as well. So that's where the festivals came into play.
I'm gonna take it another step further here. What's the most unique festival or brewery or whatever? What's the most unique place or the most unique yoga class that you've taught?
I would say that it was probably a brewery called Noda Brewery in North Carolina. I actually went to North Carolina to be part of a like a family / music festival. And on the way, while I was planning out my trip, I was like, well, I might as well hit like a brewery and see if they just like want to do an event. And we had an awesome turnout. We had like 25 people come. It was a really cool, creative, artsy brewery, and the people were the community was amazing, super friendly, super open. A lot of them were runners too, athletes. And a lot of times you'd be surprised, but a lot of times it's really hard to get runners and athletes to actually do yoga.
I could imagine that.
To take the time to stretch and all of those things. So, getting that kind of crowd that were primarily like athletes and runners as well, was definitely, a really awesome impact that we were.
Nice. I love that. I just, again, taking it outside the realm of what most people think is normal for a yoga instructor or for a wellness provider in any case, and being like, well, how can we do this so that it works for me, so that it works for other people? And like, how can we create win-wins everywhere? And so it works business wise. I'm really interested. We didn't get to it, but I mentioned it in your bio that you left the corporate world to do this. And then you open a mobile studio. What are some challenges you faced in bucking the trend and going against the grain of what is normal in society?
Right.
What are some of the challenges you faced through that?
I think one of my biggest challenges was worrying about what other people thought.
Always.
And that kind of came back to, the practice that I spoke about earlier, like the negative self-talk and stuff. So that was yet another little twinge that I had to work on, is not letting what my parents thought, my friends thought, and luckily, like, I have very supportive people in my life and my family's very supportive. But I just remember in the early days, like, I would talk about it and I would just kind of get these looks like,
okay.
yeah, like, this doesn't make any sense. Or yoga, like, why? Like, to my parents, it was kind of like, really? Like, we thought you'd open like a music venue or something, or be a DJ. So, it was kind of getting past those, they weren't being negative, but like, worrying about what other people think. And, the naysayers, people also telling me like, oh, well, you probably aren't going to amount to anything, like actually telling me that.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's nice. What do you do? Like,
yeah, no
that's
kidding.
what I ended up saying back to him. It's just like, okay, great. Well, like, what do you do with your life? Oh, I'm an accountant. I'm like, big whoop. Like,
of course you are.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, that was definitely like more of like the mental struggle. And then I think just getting into the finding the balance of being yoga and being business also, because I don't ever want to pull away from my authenticity of my love for the practice and what I was really doing it for. But I also knew that this was it. I didn't invest 5K into my yoga teacher training just to practice for fun. So it was really kind of finding that balance of being the authentic yogi, but also being a driven business owner. And the ebbs and flow. I mean, I dabbled in a lot of different things before I fully kind of settled on corporate. And I really got my big start with that from my community events, because you have community events and you're seeing all different walks of life. You have people start coming up to you asking you about, hey, like, can you come to my business and teach a class? And I'm like, hell yeah. And then like I figured out, I'm like, man, this is awesome, because it took me back to those corporate days of my stressed out coworkers, my stressed out boss, and how really, I don't know, it's kind of cosmic, because I remember them being stressed out and me having just this kind of like, of course I would get stressed sometimes, but like overall synergy, being able to get through a lot of the difficult things that were put in front of us. So it's like, why not help these people that I completely understand? It's impactful and it's profitable. So I niched, and I still do my community events and things because I have a huge passion for them, but I niched, and here we are.
And it's just fun.
Yeah, it's fun now. It's fun now. I mean, yeah, there's, like you said, there's always going to be like treacherous waters. Those are all, and like that's just what you have to brace yourself for and condition your mind for. Like, you're gonna hit ebbs and flows. And a lot of times people just like to talk about the flow and they don't like to talk about the ebb.
Yeah. And I think there's some huge value in that. And I think there's also just like, it just helps you connect with people, because, if you're only talking about the flows and they're in an ebb or they're struggling, they're not gonna connect with that. But if you can say like, hey, I have been where you are. In fact, I was there recently, and I'm just like you. I'm just, I've always subscribed to the fact that any good coach is just someone who's a couple steps ahead and willing to reach their hand back and say, come with me.
Yeah.
Come join me. We're both going the same way. I know a few things. You'll probably teach me a few things too.
Absolutely.
And let's move forward together.
No, I love that. Yeah. Because I learned so much from the yoga teachers that we mentor in the program too.
Always.
Things every day.
Always. And that's the best part about this whole thing. We're all helping each other in some way, whether we know it or not,
Yes, absolutely.
All right. I know we are on it with time. So I wanted to just, first of all, thank you, but also just where, if people are interested in learning more about what you do, where can they find you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And so my website has a lot of really good info on it. So the rollingmatadventure.com is a great way to learn more about my corporate side of my business, my events, and also my mentorship program. I do have a Facebook group called Mastering the Corporate Yoga Biz on Facebook, Mastering the Corporate Yoga Biz. So if you go search for that, join that. That's a really great way to dive deeper into the mentorship part. There's a lot of really great resources in there. And then Rollin Yogi on Instagram. Follow that. And I do have some good resources, some podcasts I've been on. And I actually do have my own podcast, the Corporate Yogi podcast as well.
The Corporate Yogi podcast. Go check it out, guys. All right. Thanks so much again, Stephanie. And I'm sure we'll be doing this again.
Thank you so much, Gavin. Take care.